What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. It has been a while since our last video, but with the Super Bowl now over, I figured this is the perfect time to do a post-Super Bowl, way too early fantasy football mock draft for the 2022 season. And that is exactly what we are going to do today here on Fantasy Pros with our typical setup. We've got a 12-team full PPR mock draft. We will be selecting from the 4th overall position. As far as the roster is concerned, 1 quarterback, 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. And honestly, this is the first time I'm kind of been looking at fantasy football heading into 2022 after the end of the 2021 season. So should be interesting. I'm really, kind of excited to see what some of these rankings show, what the projections are. Obviously, this is before free agency, things like that, but it'll be interesting nonetheless. And if you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? Along with checking us out on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. But with that being said, let's turn our attention to this draft. The first 3 picks are in. And kind of what I expect, honestly. Look, Jonathan Taylor, the first pick overall, and he had an absolutely bananas type of year. So he's going to be a pretty easy top 3 pick. And then my guy, Austin Ekeler. What did I tell everybody this past year? I told you, draft Austin Ekeler as a top 3 guy. Wouldn't you know it? That's exactly how he finished. The guy was an absolute stud in PPR, and that is why in full PPR formats heading into the 2022 season, you will see him be a top 3, top 4 pick. He was my guy. Absolutely love it, especially when those type of projections hit. Afterwards, Derrick Henry at the 103. Now, this is a full PPR league, so honestly, there's several guys that I would take above Derrick Henry. And look, I get it. A lot of people were burned here with my potential selection. That is Christian McCaffrey. He basically, for the second year in a row, was out for the majority of the season with injuries. And now he's gone from the consensus #1 overall pick to maybe being selected 2nd, 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th overall, something like that. But in my opinion, you can't project injuries. We're expecting all these guys to play a full season, at least obviously when we do these mock drafts. And when fully healthy, I think Christian McCaffrey is, in terms of fantasy scoring, an absolute elite option. So I will be picking him here. No questions about it. As far as some of these other guys, Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers, Cooper Kupp, just to touch on them, Dalvin Cook makes sense. I'd still take Christian McCaffrey above him. Cam Akers, in my opinion, makes absolutely zero freaking sense. I mean, he came back probably a little bit too early from that Achilles. Darrell Henderson is still there. I'd rather take a Joe Mixon, a Najee Harris above him, an Alvin Kamara, a DeAndre Swift. So that's a long list. I think that's something that's going to be adjusted. But let's move on. Let's go with Christian McCaffrey here, and then go to the 2nd round, which is really where I think it will become more so interesting in terms of some of the possible choices. And I'm going to bring it up here. I'm also going to bring up the draft board to see some of these selections I want to briefly touch on. So after we went Christian McCaffrey, you see Cam Akers. I think that's, again, going to change big time as, we fast forward several months into the future. Then Dalvin Cook, then Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Cooper Kupp was an absolute steal this season, the #1 fantasy wide receiver. Not really even close. The guy was a stud. So he's going to be the #1 guy selected heading into 2022. And usually that comes right around this territory, the 106, the 107 pick. So that makes sense. Then Joe Mixon. Again, that makes sense as well, just kind of basing it how this season ended. Alvin Kamara, Najee Harris. Personally, with Alvin Kamara, look, Sean Payton is no longer there. I need to see what they do at the quarterback position. If it's Taysom Hill, I'm not touching Alvin Kamara in the 1st round, let alone in the early 2nd round. That's me personally. So much of his rushing and pass catching kind of goes away in those situations. Najee Harris, I don't mind that pick at the 110. I will be interested to see what the Steelers do at the quarterback position, though. I do think that's going to play into his projections. And then you're going to see this wide receiver run. It happens pretty much every single draft, no matter the year. Towards the end of the first round, early second round, that's the sweet spot for the wide receivers since there's been a running back run. So Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, nothing too crazy there. DeAndre Swift, I really like that pick. Tyreek, Jamar Chase, interesting to see him. But obviously he had a huge rookie season. I'd personally still go probably a guy like Stephon Diggs or A.J. Brown above him. Nick Chubb at the 204. There's a lot of running backs I take above Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt's still there. Deebo Samuel goes at the 207. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens on that offense with Jimmy Garoppolo probably moving on. How much you believe in Trey Lance. Those are all question marks. Will Deebo Samuel's usage continue to be the same? Those rushing touchdowns probably go away. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, I wouldn't be drafting him this high quite yet. Mark Andrews had a huge season. He's the first tight end off the board, kind of surprising. But either way, there's other good tight end options. I mean, Travis Kelce, he's still on the board. He's probably going to be an easy top 3 tight end, but I like some of the options better. And right now, I'm looking at wide receivers. I'm looking at other running backs that are still on the board. So I'm kind of tempted. I'm not going to go Javonte Williams. I am probably going to go Antonio Gibson here. I think in PPR, he's got a potentially higher ceiling. I want to see, what the Broncos do offensively. I'm a little hesitant to kind of commit there without a bona fide quarterback. I have more faith in Washington addressing the quarterback position than I do Denver. As far as wide receivers, we could go somebody like a Jalen Waddle, somebody like a Keenan Allen. But you know what? Let's look at our cheat sheet here. This would be a good time to do so. And look at some of these running backs. I think this is a decent time. Crazy how low Ezekiel Elliott is ranked. I think that's going to go back up. Antonio Gibson, again, those are probably the 2 guys that are at the top of my list at this point in time. Gibson, Ezekiel Elliott. If this was Dynasty, then I'd be looking Javonte Williams pretty hard. Some of these wide receivers, I don't think the separation is all that much. So between a CeeDee Lamb, a Jalen Waddle, a Keenan Allen, a Metcalf even, I think I'm going to have some of those options to me in the 3rd round. So I'm going to go running back here, and I'm probably going to go Antonio Gibson. I think if McKissick leaves Washington, then we're going to have huge upside for Gibson. And, kind of backing us up with Christian McCaffrey. He's somebody, again, you can't project injuries, but you can kind of, insure yourself against them. And that's what we're doing by getting another running back in Antonio Gibson. Looking at these next couple of picks, Keenan Allen, Javonte, Kelce, Josh Allen, Kyle Pitts, way too freaking early for Kyle Pitts. I'm sorry. Saquon Barkley at the 303, kind of a discount pick there. And now we're left with the decision. Do we go wide receiver? We have the need. Or do we get, and I think this is an absolutely insane value, Ezekiel Elliott here in the 3rd round. I'm going to go Ezekiel Elliott. I've got faith in him. Look, it's nothing flashy. Reports came out he was playing injured for the majority of the season. I still think he's going to be a top 10 running back. Getting a top 10 running back, that's an RB1 in the 3rd round. I'm pretty excited about that. David Montgomery, somewhat tempting, but I don't know what to expect from that offense in Chicago. So I'm going to go with Ezekiel Elliott, see how this plays out, whether, it burns us or not. Obviously in retrospect here, you see Elijah Mitchell still available. Kind of makes me wish that I had gone, with a wide receiver earlier, because I think that's tremendous value with Elijah Mitchell. But either way, I love our running backs, McCaffrey, Gibson, Zeke. Looking at these other drafted players, you see Darren Waller, CeeDee Lamb, so we're running wide receivers again. Lamb, Godwin, Jalen Waddle. We'll see where Godwin ends up. Obviously, no Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, so all those guys take a hit, but Godwin not expected to return. George Kittle in the 3rd round, Deontay Johnson. Great value on Jalen Waddle. Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, good value on David Montgomery at the end of the 3rd round. And then the 4th round, huge run on wide receivers. I'm shocked to see DK Metcalf still available in the 4th round. I know he kind of disappointed, but there are rumors that, Russell Wilson might leave, so maybe that's partially why. But, as we sit here right now in February, I'm just treating it as is, unless we know for sure that somebody is, going to be moving or that's a free agent, then that's a different, conversation. But right now, Russell Wilson's still under contract with the Seattle Seahawks. He's not going to be a free agent. So I'm treating it as him throwing the football to DK Metcalf, which is really good value for DK in the fourth. Then T. Higgins, Hopkins, awesome value for Hopkins. Again, I think Kyler Murray is going to stay in Arizona. I think that's just some offseason chatter. Mike Evans, Mahomes. So Mahomes, second quarterback off the board. Obviously, Josh Allen finished as the number one guy, but good value for Mahomes in the fourth round. Again, this is why I say quarterbacks should be, kind of weighted upon before drafting. You're going to find such great value in the later rounds. Just think about it. Your Joe Burrows, your Justin Herberts, your Matthew Staffords that you just drafted this year. What rounds did they go in? They didn't go in the fourth, in the third, fifth round. They went afterwards. So we can afford to wait. Calvin Ridley, then, he's a really, really interesting wide receiver. I would have probably taken a chance on him in the fourth round here, considering we haven't really drafted any wide receivers. And honestly, looking at this running back board, man, I really wish we had drafted some wide receivers earlier, because Elijah Mitchell and Josh Jacobs still both there. But it's okay. There's some guys here that I don't mind drafting. Again, we're going to be double dipping on some offenses, but I really like Terry McLaurin at his current value. DJ Moore is also a possibility. It's funny, all the guys that I'm considering, I literally drafted the running backs from that team. So McCaffrey with DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin with Antonio Gibson, Amari Cooper with Ezekiel Elliott. I'm just going to go with DJ Moore here. I think he's going to get a bulk of kind of the targets. And then I'll go with either Terry McLaurin or Amari Cooper, whoever is left. And again, I think that Carolina is going to be putting a big emphasis on upgrading that quarterback position. So let's see what happens here. And if we don't even get a chance to draft, Terry McLaurin or Amari Cooper gets sniped on both of them. So we went DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, then afterwards, Amon-Ra St. Brown, another guy that we touted going in the fourth round. I think that's a little bit too early, but still. Brennan Cooks, Michael Carter, Terry McLaurin, Amari Cooper. Man, that is a bummer that we couldn't get Amari Cooper or Terry McLaurin there. Would have loved either one of them. I'm looking at wide receiver options right now. To me, there's a big time drop-off. I don't get how you can be so high on Elijah Moore with a quarterback that didn't look good at all. Michael Pittman with Carson Wentz probably leaving. Marquise Brown is somebody that's very, very tempting here. We obviously saw the flashes, but if I'm going value, I think the best value right now is Elijah Mitchell. I really do. He looked great this year when he was given the opportunity. Josh Jacobs is also somebody that's tempting. I'm going to go Elijah Mitchell and then figure it out afterwards. So let's see if we get lucky and Marquise Brown falls to us. The way this draft has been going, probably not. Let's look at tight ends as well. Dallas Goedert, my guy, TJ Hawkinson was just drafted. That's unfortunate. We will look at some other options afterwards. But hey, Marquise Brown is still on the board, and I'm going to absolutely jump on that. He had some huge games, really kind of came into his own this last season, so I like that. Allen Robinson is somebody that's really interesting. He is more than likely not, I say more than likely, but he's pretty much for sure not going back to Chicago. So, you kind of treat him as a free agent. Where does he go? The talent is there. And I think he can be a wide receiver one, kind of return those PPR results wherever he goes from the last 2 years. Probably not a top 12 guy, but right outside the top 12. So that's something to consider. We don't really need any more running backs. At tight end, Dallas Goedert, I think, is somebody that we should be considering here, because to me, there is a big drop-off at the tight end position. You kind of look at it, and Dawson Knox afterwards, is he going to duplicate the touchdown success? Freiermuth without Big Ben. So there's a lot of question marks here. Noah Fant is interesting, but there's a lot of options on that offense. So I'm just going to go Dallas Goedert here. I know it's going to be up and down, but he's still one of the top options on that Philly offense. So let's get our tight end. Wide receiver again. It's tempting to go Allen Robinson, but I'm going to knock him a couple of points because we don't know where he ends up. Okay, if he ends up in Cleveland, I don't exactly love that situation, just as an example. Let's go back to now we've got let's kind of show you our roster. So McCaffrey, Gibson, Zeke, Elijah Mitchell. I think we have the best running backs here in this mock draft. Yes, our wide receivers could be better, but hey, that's why we do these mock drafts to kind of see how it plays out. And obviously, again, from a couple months from now versus today, a lot of these possibilities are going to be very different. So keep that in mind. Wide receiver guys that I'm considering. Michael Gallup is somebody that's interesting. He's probably leaving Dallas, going to be going to a new team. Some of these other guys, Cortland Sutton, but who's throwing him the football? Jarvis Landry, I don't love the situation. Russell Gage potentially with, Calvin Ridley heading out. He's somebody that I don't mind. I'm looking at these quarterbacks. And right now, I'll probably go that direction. I was hoping that Matthew Stafford would be here. He isn't, so you kind of got to pivot and look at one of these, younger, more rush forward quarterbacks. I'm looking at Jalen Hurts. I'm looking at Trey Lance. I'm probably going to go Trey Lance here. I think he has slightly higher upside. I think we've seen the upside with Jalen Hurts. To me, Lance is in a system that I like more so. I trust that offense. I trust those coaches more. So I'm going to go Lance here and then, look at some other options afterwards at the wide receiver position, getting some depth here on the bench because we've got about 4 bench spots left, and then that's it. I mean, honestly, here I could go Jalen Hurts as well if I really wanted to be bold at the quarterback position in case, Trey Lance is somebody that doesn't pan out. That's what I usually do. If I take a chance on one of these guys, I said it before last year, if you take somebody like Jalen Hurts early on, then you should probably get a Matthew Stafford afterwards. And again, I probably will do that here, honestly, because I was thinking about both those guys, and both those guys are possibilities. Other pass heavier quarterbacks, I look at Derek Carr. Is he going to stay with the Raiders? He's up and down. I like the upside of Jalen Hurts more so. So probably going to go there. Russell Gage is also tempting. Let's look at our draft board to see if, any team is missing a quarterback here. But I believe everybody has drafted one. So I'm going to kind of, use that to my advantage. And I'm going to select Russell Gage here. He actually doesn't pop up on this page, so let's go to our cheat sheet, add him, and then draft him that way. I just like the upside more so there. And again, it's going to tell you it's a reach. Forget about it. I'm not too concerned about that. And then we can scoop up our guy in Jalen Hurts here that we kind of cheated and knew that he was going to be available in this next round. So I like that for us. And then we're going to kind of round it out here with a couple of more selections. I'm looking at the running backs, a lot of our handcuffs, the Tony Pollards, the Hubbards, guys like that are off the board. So I'm not really worried about that right now. We're going to talk, handcuffs way, way, way into the future. So now just kind of focusing on some players that I like in these rounds, kind of going one by one. So here, Van Jefferson is somebody that's kind of interesting. How does Robert Woods come back from his injury? Odell Beckham probably not going to return. Maybe we take a flyer on Van Jefferson. He showed some potential, I would say, this last season, the big playability on a high-scoring offense. So I'm going to go with Van Jefferson here. So now we have got one last selection to make, and this is probably where you take your flyer on a guy, and the position I'm going to go with, probably not tight end. I'm probably going to go back on the wide receiver train. I don't love anyone at the running back position. A wide receiver, Julio Jones, kind of tempting. Maybe somebody like a Josh Palmer with Mike Williams potentially leaving the Chargers. I think he's going to be somebody that I probably take a chance on more often than not this season. So let's draft him, and then we're going to conclude. I'm interested to see what grade we get. I think it'll probably be a C. Yeah, kind of what I figured. We kind of waited too long at the wide receiver position. I think that's what hurt us. On the flip side, we addressed the most important position in fantasy football very well. The running back position, McCaffrey, Gibson, Zeke, Elijah Mitchell. So very happy about that. Obviously, the wide receivers could be better. DJ Moore, Marquise Brown. And then the depth, there's a big drop-off. Russell Gage, Van Jefferson, Josh Palmer. But again, I just wanted to highlight here mostly my thoughts on some of these players. We're going to do a lot more of these drafts moving forward, so don't treat this as the end-all, be-all. Again, there's a reason why it's called a way too early draft. There's going to be plenty of changes in free agency, trades after the actual NFL draft, so don't worry. A lot of this stuff is going to be completely changed up a couple of weeks, months from now. But hey, in the meantime, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Did you agree, disagree, along with any other questions? We will do our best to answer them all. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. And again, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. And in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.